Anyway,
All right, who's next on your list here?
we're going to skip Austin Eckler because he's old and he's probably going to score points, so whatever. De'Von Achane is next after that.
Yeah, superstar.
Superstar?
Yes.
Like you were putting him higher than Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, like everyone basically.
I mean, this is a hard game to play because
one.
it's a hard game to play because if I'm ranking him, I'm kind of caring about his whole range of outcomes, and I think that the floor is certainly lower on him than Etienne and Taylor and Gibbs because the sample size is so tiny and he's so tiny.
A lot of size going on here.
But if you're just asking me, if we're not dealing with trying to broadcast range of outcomes from first percentile to 99th percentile, and we're just going on what do I think is in the cards? The upside here is just absolutely out of this universe. He's shown to be one of the most efficient talents in the entire league. He's playing in the have offense of all have offenses. And he hasn't even gotten an overly large snap share yet. He's just been crushing it on efficiency, which, is part a credit to him and it's part a credit to this offense. And you almost would rather it be that last part, right? We're seeing now over multiple seasons, this Mike McDaniel offense have the ability to create outlier level of efficiency for multiple different guys over the course of multiple years. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen every game in, game out, season in, season out, right? Jalen Waddle had this unsustainable efficiency last year, and so far it's been unsustainable. Tyreek Hill's unsustainable efficiency has become even more efficient. De'Von Achane's efficiency. Mostert has been absurdly efficient. I think Mostert's pretty old and not even all that great, and he's been incredibly efficient. So in terms of melding this talent profile that I've always loved with a scheme fit, and then just the general offense, I think that there's a pretty reasonable chance that if you just tell me that Achane's going to be healthy all next year and play 60% or more of the snaps, I do think we're looking at 20 plus points per game.
I'm going to throw cold water on the fire and probably not go that extreme to superstar. That is blowing my mind to some degree to go all the way to superstar. I had 1 year ago, were we not talking about Jonathan Taylor as the best rusher maybe ever?
Yeah, but De'Von Achane wasn't in the league yet.
And Nick Chubb
that mantle.
Is the best pure rusher we've ever seen. And these guys still never put up incredible seasons.
Right, but Achane actually gets past the ball.
I thought you said he wasn't that good as a receiver.
Well, that's what's been so exciting. Is his college profile to me was serviceable receiver, incredible rusher, kind of a weird size profile. But the way they've used him has been, really exciting. Where he comes in, he's played 4 games, but really he's played 3 games. He played 2 snaps, and in those 3 games, he's been received 11 targets, or 10 targets, which is not a ton. But the way that they've used him is exciting around the goal line. They've used him, not just on these boring swing passes, but really intentional usage. The whole thing with Etienne has been limited snaps, but intentional usage, where it's all about getting this explosive player into space. And this offense creates more space than anybody. So I don't think it's ever going to make sense. Nothing in this Dolphins offense, I almost just feel can be judged the same way. And this applies to Achane, applies to Mostert, it applies to Hill, it applies to Waddle. Everybody just gets a Dolphins bump until we find out that this offense doesn't function anymore. But for as long as we think that Mike McDaniel can keep this thing rolling, they're going to continue to create space for playmakers. And Achane's a playmaker. He has, what was it? I think it was in his first 3 starts, he had 2 of the highest rush yards over expected totals of any back in the last 3 years. It was just Achane's game and then another Achane game. It's been pretty exceptional. And it's been exceptional even far above and beyond what we've seen out of Mostert and Jeff Wilson in this offense. And certainly Chase Edmonds was horrible in this offense. So I think the offense carries a lot of the water here, but Achane's been as absolutely exceptional as you can expect. You want to talk about Alvin Kamara and a guy where, you don't want to be slow on betting on the uber efficient talent in this creative scheme that uses running backs really creatively. to me, that's Achane even more than it's Gibbs. So I'm taking Achane for sure here as being like a truly ascendant bet that has risk, but is like worth shooting for the moon on. I truly think.
I guess I keep coming back to, is he the best running back we've ever seen ever? And if he isn't, then he's going to need more than 60% of the opportunities to be a superstar.
Sure. But why can't he get more than 60% of the opportunities?
I don't know.
In year two. Like, he's played 3 games. Let's not say like that he's capped, you know?
I guess where I'm coming from is if he's not an exceptional receiver, which by all reports from he's not an exceptional.
He's not a Gibbs level receiver.
So then how are we getting him to these extreme, like Jonathan Taylor had like one of the most efficient seasons. He had tons of opportunity and he still only scored 20 points a game.
I don't think it's as much that he's literally the best running back we've ever seen, although I'm not ruling it out. I think it's more that he is the most explosive running back that we've ever seen, playing in the most explosive offense we've ever seen.
All right. I guess I will take the under.
Like if you drop prime Chris Johnson into this Miami offense, like wouldn't that be pretty fucking fun?
Yeah, it would. I just
because it's happening.
This is happening. It's on. Prime Chris Johnson. Let's just see. I'm just gonna take a quick look.
I mean, Etienne, look, I don't think that he's like. There's probably a lot of things that Etienne can't do because he's very small. But he does things on a football field that just like no other running back or frankly very many players can do. Like his touchdown against the Giants was like incomprehensible. He has the ball running to the outside. Like he's like 15 yards behind a safety who has outside leverage on him. And he just beats him to the sideline because he's so much faster than him. Like anytime that he has any level of space, he is such a threat to just house call it that I don't think that any sort of expected points metric is ever going to fully capture that type of week-to-week upside and efficiency because there's no other running back in the NFL that is physically capable of housing as many plays as he is when he's out in the open field. Like you have to go back to guys like Chris Johnson and Jamal Charles to me that like really remind me of that same level of explosion where truly any carry is a threat to go to the house. If he breaks through the offensive line untouched, it's on.
So Chris Johnson, here's his points per game by season. 16.7. This is rookie season, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Playing in a very sad Titans team, by the way.
Very sad Titans team. 24.1. Dude killed it. 358 carries, 2,006 yards. Amazing. And then the rest of his career, 17.1, 14.1, 13.2, 15.0. This is the fastest player we've ever seen in the NFL. Getting 200, his minimum carries in a season in his first 6 seasons is 262 carries. The fastest player we've ever seen, the most juiced up player ever.
I mean, what did we start the show with? We were talking about the evolution in coaching. Chris Johnson is the type of player that probably could have had he had an exemplary career, but probably could have had an even better career if there were Mike McDaniels and Kyle Shanahan's and Sean McVay's around instead of Jeff Fisher's when he was.
I was just going to say, who was his coach? Was it Jeff Fisher the whole time?
It was Jeff Fisher.
Coached with the Titans for like 10 years or something?
It was Jeff Fisher, who if you want to think of who you'd not want to have your 4.22 explosive running back, world-changing speed with, it's Jeff Fisher.
Renowned offensive genius.
And he obviously exceeded in spite of Mr. Fisher. But, I definitely think that we have, if we're going to acknowledge that, there's many ways in which this game is changing into these haves and have-nots, we have to acknowledge that certain types of players, when they're fit with these types of schemes, we're going to see things that are hard to comprehend on our spreadsheets. I'm not saying he's going to keep average. I don't know how many yards per carry he has right now. 100.
Nobody's saying that.
It's not going to stay the same.
Nobody's assuming that.
Right. But this type of ups, it seems like early on he's been breaking one of these 80-yard runs every single game. That's not going to continue. There's going to be games where that's not going to happen. But it's going to happen a lot more frequently for him in this offense, just as it happens a lot more frequently for Hill and for Waddle. Not this year yet for Waddle, but go over the longer run, then it happens for most of these dudes in other offenses. Like, I would still love De'Von Achane anywhere in the NFL, but this is that spot where, like, I was talking about, should we care more about situation? It's not like I'm just caring about situation blindly in the sense that I'm saying, like, literally any Miami Dolphins running back would be the RB1 overall, but it's a mix of this specific player in this specific situation and what his skill set is. It's a match made in absolute heaven. And I think that if we're shooting for upside, like, you're always talking about shooting for upside. Shoot for the upside of the player who's had record level efficiency since he stepped onto an NFL field playing for a record setting offense. Like, what more do you want? How is that not a bet worth taking?
He's, I guess where I'm coming from is that, kind of back to our Jahmyr Gibbs conversation, is upside mostly comes from receiving. And if he's not an exceptional receiver, then I don't know that he has exceptional upside. He's small and he's not exceptional at receiving. So what are we talking here? Like 12% target shares? Like, I don't know. Like, that's fine. He'll probably be like maybe a back end RB1 unless he gets 300 carries like Chris Johnson did. 350 carries. He had 358 carries that one year where he scored 24.1 fantasy points per game. And he averaged 5 yards per carry.
Which I think is like, okay, I mean, 358 isn't going to happen because we're not in Jeff Fisher world anymore.
It's not 2007 anymore, 2009, whatever it was.
But I think he can I have no concerns about his ability to handle volume if it's offered to him. Like, he was able to do it in college repeatedly. I don't think that's going to be a problem for him. I think that Jamal Charles is always the name I come back to with Etienne. Like, that's always been my preferred comp for him in terms of a guy who was very adept in the receiving game, but never had that, like, Alvin Kamara. Like, he had one season of 70 catches, which is obviously remarkable. But outside of that one season, his high was 45 in any other season. And his high in carries is 285 one year. He had 259 was his next. Generally lived in that 230 to 280 range with 40 to 50 catches and absurd efficiency every single year. And he did that on really shitty Chiefs teams. So to me, I'm looking at that type of 230 to 280 plus 40 to 50, but way higher touchdown totals and potentially even more efficiency because we're doing it on the best offense in the league, not a bunch of 4-12 sad Chiefs teams with, like, Brock Hubert or whoever the fuck at quarterback.
Who?
Wasn't that a quarterback for the Chiefs at some point? Wasn't there a guy named Brock Hubert?
I don't remember. So Jamal Charles is an absolutely great example. Jamal Charles, of course, scored 14.9, 7.7, 17.7, 9.1, 15.0, 25.2, one miracle season with 19 touchdowns, and then 16.7 fantasy points. With
25.2.
What was it? What's his career average? 5.4 career average yards per attempt. Highest of all time. Most efficient running back in the history of the world. It's just really hard to paint a picture.
And he had 25.2 points per game. I mean, that's
one singular year, and the rest of the years he was like.
Okay, but how many players are you expecting to put up multiple 20-point per game seasons? Like,
I don't know,
25-point per game seasons. Like, fine, if you want to average
he didn't even hit 20 another time. He didn't even hit 18 another time.
But he put 25, not just 20. So what's the average of his 3 top seasons? 17, 16, and 25 plus whatever decimals. That's like. That's about an average of 20 points per game over those 3 peak seasons. I don't know what the decimals were.
19.3.
Right. Okay. I'll take that. I'll take 19.3 points per game on an average of his best 3 seasons. Yeah. But in the Miami offense, I think that we're going to go higher than that.
How can we go higher than like 6 yards per carry?
Well, we're going to have more touchdowns.
He scored 19 and 14 touchdowns in those 2 of those seasons. Achane's not going to score 17 touchdowns a year.
I like the sound of that 19. He might score 17 touchdowns per year. Raheem Mostert has 13 already.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Raheem Mostert. We've played 7 games this year. and Raheem Mostert and De'Von Achane have combined for 20 touchdowns.
Pardon me. Yeah, he's got 11 touchdowns in 7 games. He's going to score 20 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, he is.
Oof.
And that's with Etienne having 7?
I mean, they also scored 70 points in one game out of 7.
Right.
So
that's my point. I want the players who score. I want the players who play on the teams who are capable of scoring 70 points per game. You don't.
I think it really comes down. I don't think he's unfairly priced right now. I'll say that. For where he is right now in fantasy calc, where was he?
Which is way too low.
RB8. No, sorry, RB10.
Which is egregious.
Which feels a little low to me. I don't know that it's crazy low. I don't know why he would be lower than, say, Kenneth Walker. I'd probably have De'Von Achane and Kenneth Walker together. And I'm probably still taking Etienne and Taylor, and I'm definitely taking Gibbs ahead of him. But he's probably
I'm definitely taking Etienne over Gibbs for sure. I don't have a problem with taking Taylor or Etienne if you need to win now because of the injury situation, but I'm probably taking Etienne above those guys in a vacuum.
Oh, this is a wild, wild, wild world we're living in. I feel like you think that the Dolphins are going to score at this pace for the rest of eternity.
I think that they're going to score at a very high pace for a while.
Huh. How many
I'm not going to say the rest of eternity.
Well,
can I say the rest of Tyreek Hill's prime?
For the rest of Tyreek Hill's prime, is that what you said?
Yeah. So give me another 2 years on top of this one.
Let's just see here. The Miami Dolphins are currently scoring 34.3 fantasy points per game, regular points per game, which is 6 higher than second place.
Yeah, so that's probably too high, but I do think that they will be. I mean, I think that they are likely to be top 3 in the NFL, if not top 1 in scoring for the next few years.
Let's go ahead and drop him into San Francisco, which is number 2. And let's say he's Christian McCaffrey, but he's not. So
much better.
What is he in San Francisco? Raheem Mostert?
No. This guy immediately made Raheem Mostert look like a secondary piece in the Miami offense.
Pardon me. All right. Well, I think we've bludgeoned this one to death. I'm taking under legendary as strong starter. You're taking over legendary as best player.
Why don't you just be a man and stuff him in a locker?
Stuff him in a locker.